Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
Philadelphia fans, we're cut from a different cloth. Born into a brotherhood and bonded to our team for life. We believe anything is possible because we've witnessed the impossible. While we may be from different neighborhoods, come Sunday, we are one, and we will be heard. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Back at it again. It's the Football Playbook with your boy RIC in the place to be. Ric Serritella. Telling it like it is when it comes to your 13-2 Philadelphia Eagles. It's Wednesday, December 28th. Buckle up. 3 days to go left in this beautiful new year, which means the tailgate takeover 4 days away here on Saints Week. Chopping it up, breaking it down. Oh, baby. 2 hours of power coming at you at the JAKIB Sports YouTube channel. Click subscribe. Smash that like button. I see my chat room people already on it for me. Justin, thank you so much in the chat room. All my chat room people. Richard Rosania. Good morning, Paisan TB. The True Goat. Stephen Michael. William Stark is back at it again. Good morning. Oh, we got a great show for you today. We recapped the Eagles' loss 40-34 to the Dallas Cowgirls yesterday. Got it in 2 hours. No show on Monday. So Tuesday was the new Monday. Today is Hump Day. An abbreviated week here on the Football Playbook. Our 81st edition, by the way. And we got the usual suspects coming up 10:30 a.m. Eastern. Glenn Irby, Eagles Newswire, USA Today. Glenn brings straight fire each and every week. Always love popping him up. And, of course, Philadelphia's finest, Kayla Santiago, Delmarva sports director here. I think she will be making an appearance at the tailgate takeover. And then 11:30 a.m., we'll go behind enemy lines with our good friend Kyle T. Mosley of Sports Illustrated. Does a great job covering the Saints beat for SI.com. Also covers the HBCU. If we have time, maybe I can pick his brain about Dion because, hey, we coming. Yeah, we're coming with that fire. Unlike Jonathan Gannon, who just sat there and watched Dak Prescott pick apart the zone coverage 24 out of 24. At one point, Dak Prescott completing 19 consecutive passes, and Jonathan Gannon was asked about it yesterday. And I got to say, guys, the usual cool, calm, collective Jonathan Gannon was a little bit agitated. In fact, I have here in my notes, it's the first time I've seen him frustrated. And I think it was an accumulation of things. It was one, the poor performance. Two, the media needling him. And three, he just didn't want to be there. And so he got asked about the 3rd and 30 a lot. And we discussed that yesterday. We called out Darius Slay for what he is, which is not part of the Eagles culture, right? And somebody in the chat room made a good point yesterday. He comes from a losing program. So he might not be in sync with what Nick Sirianni is preaching, even though he's been here. Now, yesterday, I saw Ndamukong Suh put out a tweet, and we talked about this as the season has gone on. And we talk about OBJ. We talk about some of these free agents. Like, hey, You don't want to tweak the culture. You don't want to mess with the chemistry. They got something special going on. Well, in comes Sue off the street, hanging out for the first 3 months of the season. He's been here, a month? And now he wants to put out this tweet about, I can't wait to meet up with my friends in Arizona this season? Really? Sue? You play 15 reps a game, buddy. You're the guy proclaiming Super Bowl? Sue? You? And that's what you get with these street free agents, guys that, I don't know if Sue has an ego. I kind of liked what Sue was talking about, but to take to Twitter and put the Super Bowl prediction out and only halfway owning it too. Like, if you are going to be bold, own it. Don't just talk about, hey, I'm going to see some friends out in Arizona. We know what that means. Own it. But again, you talk about a guy that maybe doesn't understand the standard that we hear Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox and Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts talk about so much, the standard. Some guys are not getting it. Now, Jonathan Gannon, to me, these coordinators, and Steichen, I'll get to him, he spoke as well, they are some thick-headed individuals, and I can relate here in the Serritella household. I get it. Some thick-headed individuals. At some point, though, we got to acknowledge our downfalls. And I had a bone to pick with Steichen last week because I told you he didn't get it, right? He's still out here talking about Jalen Hurts. There's no such thing as kryptonite. He's Superman. He just heals different. He gets hit different. He falls different. No, in fact, the defender, it's not a byproduct of Jalen Hurts taking hits. It's just that the defender fell on him the wrong way. My dad used to say, denial, not only a river. Yeah. Shane Steichen. This week, Jonathan Gannon is in denial. Now, he gets up there on the podium. He's full of such coach speak too. And hey, it fools a lot of the Philadelphia media. They don't even know Jonathan Gannon's hitting him with the rope-a-dope. The Philly media don't even know it. Merrill Reese, by the way, the only reporter that asked about the Saints was 80 years old Merrill Reese. It's like the last question. He's like, man, these beat writers don't do a job. Let me ask the question for them. But Jonathan Gannon doesn't get it. Like he gives you all this coach speak. He does his best Andy Reid impersonation. Like, oh, that's on the coaches. That's on me. I got to do a better job. And then in the next breath or the next question, he was asked about Dak Prescott. And, basically picture perfect, seamless against the zone. And he was asked about adjusting or adapting. You want to hear his response? Talk about a guy who doesn't get it. He said, it doesn't matter what's being called. It's what's being coached and what's being taught. Doesn't matter what's being called. It's what's being coached and what's being taught. In other words, whatever I call should work. It should be executed. Well, maybe the Cowboys got you figured out, JG. So he doesn't want to accept the fact that maybe there's an equivalent to his defensive scheme. I get it. Bend but don't break. But you got lit up by the Cowboys, man. And the zone coverage, I hate to say it, it might be the downfall of this ball club when they meet Dallas round 3 on January 20th. Sounds like it's going down. Sounds like it's going down. Round 3. Ding, 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 ding. And it sounds like Jonathan Gannon isn't going to do anything different. And again, he's been pretty cool, calm, and collective this whole season. I got to go back. I've never seen him with that nervous twitch in the chair. I'd have to go back to like week 1 or week 2, somewhere around that Lions and Vikings game where we were getting on Gannon quite a bit, and he was uncomfortable. And I got a sense yesterday that kind of same feeling. And Ric Serritella said earlier in the week, how are we going to deal with adversity? How are we going to react when we get punched in the face? We're about to find out, because here come the Saints. And the Saints are coming marching in with a sneaky ball club here. Again, outside, even the Texans are capable of winning. There's only a handful of really bad teams. The Broncos are one of them. The Colts, you want to say they're a bad team, but man, they gave us a good run on that primetime affair. Now, that was Jeff Sunday's first game in the saddle, so I think there was a little bit of that working. But, you look at the NFC South, they got all losing records. I don't know who the best team is. Is it the Saints? Is it the Panthers? Is it the Bucs? I have no idea. All I know is that this Saints team has not allowed 20 points since week 9. Pretty good. And they ran the ball 40 times in the cold this past week. They took a page out of that Commanders, Bears blueprint. It's coming. And it says here, this rookie Chris Olave out of Ohio State, one of the best wide receivers against zone coverage. He's going to be a problem this week, I think. And we'll have Kyle T. Mosley on in the second hour of Power to kind of preview that Saints team. But, back to Gannon, man. He said, we learned a great deal from that game. We'll be better for it. Well, not if you don't adapt and adjust. Not if you don't adapt and adjust. He did say he's proud of the group. And, takeaways was a big deal. Affecting the quarterback is a winning stat. He kind of harnessed on that. And if you tune into the Birds 365 show that airs right before us, then the Mac and Mac boys like to have a lot of fun. What's more important, sacks or quarterback pressures? Jonathan Gannon is a big believer that pressuring the quarterback is a winning stat. He's all about limiting big plays, getting pressure on the quarterback. And I'll tell you what, there was big plays all over the field on, Saturday, Sunday. Whew. Now, again, Gannon spoke for like 20 minutes, not a single question about the Saints until the last question. And they were going to wrap it up, and Merrill Reese fired one off. Thank God for Merrill. And he asked Gannon about the Saints. He said, hey, this is a team, they're not going to let you off the scent. In other words, you don't know what's coming with the Saints team on offense. Really, think about it. 1 week it's Winston, another week it's Dalton. Taysom Hill busts out, and then he disappears for like 2 or 3 weeks at a time. Then he resurfaces. Then he comes in the game. Like last week, the Saints offense was lollygagging, and they bring in Taysom Hill, and boom, he's like what Vinny Johnson back in the day, the microwave, and off the bench in comes Taysom Hill. So, that is something where you're not exactly game planning for that week in and week out. So when teams see it, it catches them off guard. There's a little adjustment period. Like Taysom Hill comes in the game, it might take a couple plays to kind of figure that out. It's like going up against Army or Navy. You think you've got that triple option figured out until you go up against a team that practices it every single day. Like Taysom Hill Wildcat package, they've been practicing that for years, You got to love the Cowboys fans too, man. William Burney, welcome back. He did some projections. If we want to talk about ifs, if Dak Prescott played against the Eagles all 17 games, he'd have 6,000 passing yards and 51 touchdowns. Man, you got to get out more, William. It's not how life works. Appreciate it, though. Glad you had the time to do that arithmetic. Oceana's trying to learn her multiplication. So, hey, Ric Serritella here. You out there. Buckle up. We're having fun. Part 81 on the JAKIB Sports YouTube channel. Smash that like button. Get it in. Stephen, William, go Sixers. James, Stephen, all the people in the chat room and the listeners worldwide across the universe. So that was the Jonathan Gannon presser. Again, just agitated, frustrated. Haven't seen it in a couple months out of Jonathan Gannon. Shane Steichen. Thanks, Stephen. Oh, baby. Buckle up. Shane Steichen says Gardner Minshew was efficient, got the ball out quick. Overall, really strong performance. I would tend to disagree, Shane. Not sure what game you were watching. Looked good on paper. The stats looked good, but that was not an impressive performance. In my opinion, somebody asked me, hey, Rick, what do you expect out of a backup quarterback? I expected a W, quite frankly. You have the best offensive line in football. You got A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, and Dallas Goedert. You got a pair of 1,000-yard receivers. You got a 1,000-yard running back behind you. You got one of the best tight ends in football. I don't know. I was expecting a victory. Frankie, what up, baby? Yeah, the footwork is atrocious. The mechanics, nothing is in sync. He doesn't throw into the ball. His lower and upper body is all off sync. I got to get him with my guy Steve Fairchild in the offseason or something. But now I understand. I think I understand. This is what I was thinking about this morning as I was shaving my head, and as somebody kindly mentioned, I look like a dirty tennis ball. Thank you. With Minshew, I now understand how the Minshew mania was born. I now get it, because Mike. All right. Here's the deal. Here's how Minshew mania was born. Nobody watches Jacksonville Jaguars games, including Jaguars fans themselves, right? So when Minshew mania was winning those games for the Jags, and he kind of caught the league by storm, it was like Linsanity, right? Who is this guy? Now I get it. Nobody was watching the Jaguars games. So when you saw these highlights and these, arm dip angles and off the back foot, it looked marvelous, right? It looked great, Minshew mania. From a distance, man, when you get a front row ticket and you're watching it up close, it's not so impressive. So I don't know. Shane Steichen, he was happy with Gardner Minshew. Nick Sirianni was happy with Gardner Minshew. Bro, I ain't happy unless there's a W in the left-hand column. So you guys talk about the standard. Did you reset? Did you lower the bar? Because last time I checked, the standard was about winning. Now you're telling me Gardner Minshew played well. Hey, different strokes for different folks. I didn't see it that way. Devonta Smith, Shane Steichen called him an elite wide receiver. He continues to grow. I am so impressed with the development of Devonta Smith. Really, truly. I mean, this guy, he's a gamer, right? Like, give me 53 Devonta Smiths all day, every day. I think pound for pound, Devonta Smith might be the toughest guy on this team. It's possible. It's quite possible. True Savage, thank you for checking in. Good to see you. Shane Steichen said, hey, when you see Dallas in round 3, he was asked about this. Will you do anything different? And he also asked, well, in terms of Dallas, he said, you do what you need to do to win the game. All right. Now, again, Shane Steichen is not a guy that wants to really change. And so they asked him, what about Lane Johnson being out? Will you tweak the offense? Will anything look different? He said, no, we're going to do what we do. We're going to do what we do. Nothing's going to change. So the offense isn't going to change, but that starting lineup is going to change. And I'm not sure what it's going to look like when they roll it out there on Sunday. Me personally, this is just me, I would plug in Driscoll at right tackle for Lane Johnson. That's me. There's some talk, though, that maybe Dillard is plugged in at left tackle and Mulata slides back to right tackle. I don't know. To me, I think Dillard and Driscoll are closer than people think in terms of talent. Driscoll might be the more talented guy, but Dillard is probably the more experienced guy. We'll see. It's going to be interesting. The backup plan in the chat room says Devonta Smith or Marcus Epps might be the toughest guys. I will say I'll give it to Devonta Smith over Epps just because Epps, I get it. He makes some big hits. He also gets a little gun shy occasionally. Occasionally. He will be a little bit hesitant to get up in there. So Sean S., you guys are funny in the chat, man. I'm glad the Cowboys are back to revel in their glory. Hey, don't go away. Keep it here for the next 35 days or so. January 20th, round 3. It's coming back around again. Yeah, Kelsey is definitely up there in the toughness equation, no doubt about it. And then lastly, on the Shane Steichen press conference, Miles Sanders, who I don't know. I think he's somewhat in the doghouse. I think you're going to see a lot of Kenneth Gainwell and Boston Scott this week. Just a hunch. Just a hunch. I think this coaching staff has just about had it with Miles Sanders, the maturity factor, the fumble factor. You know, you cannot be putting the ball on the carpet come December and January. Just can't do it. Can't have it. Can't win with it. Mike Singletary might say. So Shane Steichen said, hey, we work on this. You could tell in his tone of the voice. We work on this every day. Wrist above the elbow. Eagle claw. Shane Steichen saying this at his press conference. He's giving Miles Sanders coaching tips. Wrist above the elbow. Eagle claw. Tiki Barber style. I don't know. Shane Steichen said it was a fluke thing. Happened 2 weeks in a row. Miles Sanders, man, not making himself any money come free agency. That's all I'm saying. Woo! Baby! Adams Exploits, welcome to the show. Hearts on fire. Smash that like button. Listen to your boys in the chat. Hey, we got some fire coming up. Tone DeShields II holding it down, the super producer. And this is the 81st episode of the Football Playbook here in 2022. We got 3 days left in this calendar year. Wednesday, December 28th. Now we got predictions coming in. I'm going to get a couple of them coming up with our guests. A block is in the books. Vulnerable Vitality. Welcome to the big show. By the way, a lot of new listeners coming into the Football Playbook. We're here Monday through Friday, weekdays, 10 a.m. Eastern time, 10 a.m. to noon. Each and every weekday, buckle up. Going to take a quick commercial break. Smash that like button on your way out. It's all brought to you by Ocean Casino and Resorts down there in Atlantic City. When we come back in, I got the one, the only, Glenn Irby from the Eagles Newswire, USA Today, bringing that heat. Coming at you.
Postgame show with Seth Joyner.
I knew that they had a running game.
Derek Gunn.
He has put in the effort.
Devin Caney.
Had we not won the Super Bowl, what would we be saying?
And Mike Missinelli.
Well, you know who Philly is.
Postgame, now streaming on the 6ABC family of apps.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Number 1, Jeff D'Ambrosio. Destination Downingtown is rolling back prices for a December to remember. For a limited time, you can own, not lease, brand new 2023 Jeep Wranglers for only $30,995 or $339 per month. New Ram starting at only $30,995 or new Ram 1500 Bighorn Crew Cabs $189 per month. Zero down can deliver. Get the price you want, the selection you need, and the VIP treatment you deserve. Jeff D'Ambrosio, Destination Downingtown, Big Finish Sales Event.
Did you know taxes could be your biggest expense during retirement? Are most of your assets in tax-deferred accounts like IRAs and 401ks? Taxes are historically low today, but we're facing significant headwinds in the future. Do you have a plan? The Thrive Financial Team has more than 100 years of experience helping people across the Delaware Valley with forward-looking tax planning. Learn how to shift your money from forever tax to no or low tax accounts. Get your Thrive Retirement Tax Playbook today.
Go for the beers, go for the cheers, go for the hit and the hits, go for the scene, go for the screens, go for the gallery, go for the win, go to Ocean. Go to get your game on. Go for the beers, go for the cheers, go for the hit and the hits, go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
Philadelphia fans, we're cut from a different cloth. Born into a brotherhood and bonded to our team for life. We believe anything is possible because we've witnessed the impossible. While we may be from different neighborhoods, come Sunday, we are one, and we will be heard. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Postgame show with Seth Joyner.
I knew that they had a running game.
Derek Gunn.
He has put in the effort.
Devin Caney.
Had we not won the Super Bowl, what would we be saying?
And Mike Missinelli.
Well, you know who Philly is.
Postgame, now streaming on the 6ABC family of apps.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers, go for the cheers, go for the hit and the hits, go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
Philadelphia fans, we're cut from a different cloth. Born into a brotherhood and bonded to our team for life. We believe anything is possible because we've witnessed the impossible. While we may be from different neighborhoods, come Sunday, we are one, and we will be heard. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Back at it again. All right, seeing the place to be. Ric Serritella, telling like it is when it comes to your 13-2 Philadelphia Eagles here on the Football Playbook. Buckle up, smash that like button. It's all brought to you by Ocean Casino Resorts down there in Atlantic City. And we will be down at the Ocean maybe this Sunday after the tailgate takeover, parking lot G. It's all going down, and maybe we'll run into Glenn Irby, Eagles Newswire USA Today here on this Wednesday, December 28th, joining us right now. Tone, hopefully the audio is better on my end. And Glenn, good morning. How are we doing today?
Rick, how you doing? Good morning.
Doing good. Hopefully the holidays are treating you better than the Philadelphia Eagles and their fans here. A lot of bickering in the chat room. The Cowboys are reveling and basking in the glory. And it looks like there could be a round 3 simmering on the back burner. Now, you tell me what your takeaway was from this Cowboys game, because I really thought the Eagles were a better team. Even with Gardner Minshew, I expected them to pull out the W, but after watching that game, knowing that Lane Johnson is now injured, knowing that Avonte Maddox is out for the regular season, and knowing that Jalen Hurts might not be the same quarterback, I kind of have to reevaluate whether I thought the Cowboys were pretenders. I think now that they are very well contenders. What are your thoughts?
I think it's a whole bunch of goalposts moving. The same things we talked about before. When the Cowboys lost the first game, they were without their starting quarterback. Nobody made a big deal of it. The Eagles go to Dallas. They play really well. They do the same thing they did in Washington in terms of the turnovers, fumbling the game away. And they still had a chance to win the game in the end. And now, everything's falling. So I think it's a loss. We talked about it before. They'll probably play again. I'd rather split in the regular season and win the third one than win 2 straight and somehow lose in the playoffs. So everything will be okay. They'll figure it out. That's where that offensive line that comes in. That's why we talk about Jeff Stoutland all the time. So things will work out.
Well, we'll get into the offense, but will they figure it out on defense? Because I know Dak Prescott shredded the zone coverage, 24 out of 24. That 3rd and 30 is like a season-defining moment, possibly. If the Cowboys do go on a run, they're going to go back to that T.Y. Hilton catch as the turning point of their season. It was that kind of party, and there was miscommunication there. Again, in the secondary, Darius Slay, his play has fallen here in the second half. What the heck is going on back there?
Somewhat, I think, again, we talk about Avonte Maddox, how important he is, and I think you're starting to see it. When he's in the game, they can do the kind of things they want to do on the outside. They can play man. They can play man zone concepts. They can do whatever they want. Once he leaves the game, things change. It's a lot more zone and things of that nature. I think the play with Slay, and I could be wrong, I played beat defensive back, but I felt like he was baiting Prescott, and I think if Gardner Johnson's in that game, he intercepts it or he breaks the pass up. So I think from that standpoint, his play has dipped some. It was a bad play, but I think that's more on Josiah Scott than the Pro Bowl cornerback. But that's just me.
Yeah, and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson was not in there. He's out with a lacerated kidney. We don't know what the CAT scan is going to say this week. We don't know if he's going to be activated. Let's just assume that he's not going to play, Glenn. Josiah Scott's kind of been a roller coaster ride. And when Chauncey does come back, he could maybe play the slot. But just for this Saints game this upcoming week, will it be Reed Blankenship and Marcus Epps at safety with Kayvon Wallace in the slot? Is that what we're about to see on this Sunday?
I would try it. I mean, I think without Maddox in the game, you're going to play more zone anyway. So I think at worst, you'll get an active Kayvon Wallace, a high motor. If he's going to make a mistake, he's going to make that mistake, going full go. So I would try a litany of things. I would try several things. So I think you'll still have to go with Scott at some points. But if Gardner Johnson can't return, then I would play Kayvon Wallace more in the box, see what we can get there, play more zone, get the communication under control. And I think things are fine. You still had 6 sacks. You still were strong up front. You just got to fix the back end.
It's interesting. Former Eagles cornerback Craven LeBlanc, I saw tweeted out that he was 100% healthy, ready to go, can help a team, maybe a plug-and-play guy. Is he worth kicking the tires on? Have you heard anything in terms of Philadelphia being interested at all? What are your thoughts?
I haven't heard anything, but I made a listing of players that could possibly fill that role, and he was at the top of it. He was the pitcher we used for the post. So in terms of knowing the city, knowing some of the coverages, knowing the scheme, I'd bring him in for the stretch run, but I haven't heard anything. We'll see. But he's a worthy candidate, and I would do it.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't hurt to kick the tires, sign him to the practice squad, see what you got there. I know they brought in a tight end yesterday. We'll get to the offense in a second, but you mentioned the pass rush. I mean, they're about to surpass the 85 Bears for the most sacks. If they can pull it off again, I think they need 12 sacks. And you say, hey, that's a lot of sacks, but they've been getting them in bunches. Clearly the best defensive line in Eagles history, I want to say.
They've been solid up front. They've been solid against the run. That's not really the issue. I think, we can get better play in the passing game from the linebackers in the secondary. But in terms of the defensive front, Gannon has done an outstanding job of rotating guys, keeping guys fresh, allowing Josh Sweat to flourish, things like that. So it's a solid group, and I can only expect them to play better as the postseason and the regular season winds down.
We're talking about bringing in these defensive guys and some of them off the street, like Ndamukong Suh. Slay came over from Detroit. I saw, he kind of was pointing fingers after the game. Slay was. Suh put out a tweet yesterday like, hey, I can't wait to meet up with my boys out in Arizona. The Eagles core guys like Brandon Graham and the leadership guys talk about the standard and the culture that they've created. You got any problems with Suh putting that stuff out there, or Slay kind of pointing fingers? It seems not to be what Sirianni preaches from the top on down.
I mean, it's a tight-knit group. I think you have a situation where you have some guys getting a little bit more stardom fame. Slay has a podcast. So there are certain things going on. But I think from the standpoint of the core guys, Slay was brought in, Suh was signed. So they're not necessarily core guys. Slay is a captain. His play has been excellent this season, but I think it's a situation that they'll work out. They have the roster, they had the Fletcher Coxes, the Kelce's, Jalen Hurts. So I think there are enough positive personalities, strong personalities for this not to get out of hand. I think it was a bad loss. They'll figure it out.
But, you say Slay's a captain. If he's got a problem with somebody in the locker room, shouldn't he go talk to him mano a mano and not air it out to the media? Like, to me, that's the problem I have with it.
For sure, but you also know we live in a new day and age with social media, clicks, likes, and things of that nature. So things are signed. He may have done that and still have taken it to social media. Who knows?
Yeah, I try to understand it, Glenn. We're talking to Glenn Irby, Eagles Newswire, USA Today, here on the Football Playbook each and every Wednesday. By the way, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Buckle up, double chin strap affair. Somebody else who took to social media, shifting over to the offense now, is Miles Sanders. I saw him. He's out here, listen, you just fumbled for the second straight week. You're not having a great stretch run here. Why the heck are you on social media liking tweets and talking about, hey, I can't wait till we get a real running back and Josh Jacobs is coming in. Get out of here, Miles. And he's out here liking it. Like, what is Miles Sanders trying to accomplish with that?
I mean, he's in the contract year. Things can be frustrating. He just went over 1,000 yards. He just went over double-digit touchdowns. So you see a situation where a guy is going from 1,000+ yards to where in his mind, he maybe has left a few hundred yards on the field. He feels like he could have a 1,500 yard season. And that could be the difference between, when we talk free agency, the 12 million that Derrick Henry and those guys get and the 6 or 7 million that guys like Naheem Hines and others are getting. So it's a stressful time for a lot of people. This team has a lot of free agents. So it's clearly a situation where he may not be back, and having 2 picks in the first round and the way we do running backs here, he may not have to be back. So it's a stressful time for everybody, and I think you're seeing that.
Yeah, I think he might be playing and talking his way out of Philadelphia. I don't see them giving him $10 million a year to return to Philly with all the other pending free agents. Let me ask you this then. We saw Kenneth Gainwell kind of get an increase in touches. Do you anticipate a bigger role for Gainwell and Scott here down the stretch?
Definitely Gainwell. I think, in terms of the usage rates, they had the same amount of snaps. Sanders had more carries. Gainwell had more touches in the passing game. So we'll see this week. We'll see in the season finale, but he is the better, he's the better pass catcher of the two. He's the more shiftier of the two. So it's not that far of a drop off, when the offensive line is going and things of that nature. So Miles has to be careful.
Before we get to Jalen, in terms of what his game status is, and we're just speculating, what were your thoughts and impressions from the Gardner Minshew performance, Glenn?
Wasn't that bad. I mean, we did the studs and duds for the week. I named him a stud. I mean, you don't want the 2 turnovers, but I mean, Quez Watkins, has to be tougher on those plays. He fames himself as the fastest guy in the league. Well, during those 2 plays, you got to be the most physical guy in the league. So yeah, he had a couple of turnovers, but he also threw for 355. He wants to be a starter, good footwork in the pocket. If he has to play, I have no doubt they could beat the Saints. So from a backup standpoint, no, he's not Hurts, but I'm comfortable going forward with him over the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, $2.5 million Gardner Minshew is earning this season. He's probably another guy that could maybe earn himself a larger payday in free agency. Quez Watkins, you mentioned him, Glenn. I'm starting to believe – speed is such an alluring asset in the NFL. I mean, teams get fascinated over speed, but when you're a one-trick pony, my friend, you better be physical, like you said. And I'm starting to believe now Quez Watkins is the weakest link on this offense. Would you agree with that?
At moments, I mean, I don't understand why we don't see Pascal get more routes, but I think on those 2 plays, those 2 turnovers, he just has to be – if he's not going to – attack the footballs, stop the defender from getting the football, but you can't just let, 2 solid defensive backs look all world and taking the ball away from you.
Yeah, I'd like to see Pascal maybe injected a little bit more into the equation. You saw him get some reps, I think, when Dallas Goedert was down, and Goddard, by the way, only had 3 targets. He caught all 3 of them. And I see they brought in Blake Jarwin, the former Dallas Cowboys tight end, who can do a little bit of everything. Not a terrible pass catcher, pretty good blocker before that ACL injury. What's your thought here? I know Tyree Jackson is out, but I didn't think that was a significant loss. Are they just exploring better depth? Would Jarwin be an upgrade over Stoll or Calcaterra? I didn't quite see it that way. Why are they bringing in Blake Jarwin? And make it make sense, Glenn.
Well, I know they tried to take him off the Cowboys practice squad a few years ago, but I think in terms of with Lane Johnson's injury, you're likely going to see more 2 and 3 tight end sets, like all 3 tight ends on the field at the same time. So I think in terms of his blocking ability, he can be an upgrade over the rookie Calcaterra. So he's a solid pass catcher as it is. So from that standpoint, they're about equal. When you throw in his blocking ability and his veteran presence, that becomes a situation where if he's healthy, you can add him to the roster. And now that becomes a situation where you can help Driscoll or whoever you put at right tackle on that side.
No doubt. Makes sense to me. I'm buying what you're selling there. How about the wide receivers now? We could talk about a bright spot because A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, I mean, these guys are electrifying. I don't know who the true number 1 is, but I'll tell you what, these guys, I mean, this is as good as it gets in terms of a 1-2 combination. You'd have to really search. I think maybe Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle could maybe give them a run for the money, but man, they're right up there in terms of I was gonna say Batman and Robin, but I caught myself. Batman and Batman.
I mean, they're really talented. I think the funny thing comes in when Brown is the big play guy. Devontae Smith, for being such a small guy, is the more physical guy. So at times he's the swole Batman on the team. And I mean, I think last week he made a lot of tough catches. A lot of his catches were tough catches, sideline catches. He absorbs hits. So I think, watching them and how they play, Brown's the guy that gets to, the big plays, the yards after the catch. So it's an intriguing dynamic. But to have two guys over 1,000 yards, both could have 1,400, it's very entertaining.
Lastly, the offensive line, the other big question mark, we talked about Avonte Maddox in the secondary is going to leave some question marks. Lane Johnson, I said on the show yesterday, arguably just as big of a loss as a Jalen Hurts. I mean, this guy, talk about as good as it gets. He hasn't given up a sack or a pressure in 2 years. Shane Steichen was asked, does it impact the play calling? Will it change the offensive scheme at all? And he just said, we're going to do what we do. The question is, what is that offensive alignment going to look like? Is it just, hey, let's plug and play Driscoll, or will they kind of move and plug Dillard at left? We hear maybe Mulata could slide back at right. I mean, how do you see this playing out?
I would go the first way you said it. Just plug Jack Driscoll in and go. I think, the last time Mulata slid over, I think it was against the Panthers a couple years ago. He struggled badly. He's one of the NFL's top left tackles. Leave him where he is. I think, like we said, if you need to add a tight end there or allow a running back to help and chip, Driscoll's a solid right tackle. He could play guard. So Sam Gurgens can slide out as well. You have options, but I think you leave Mulata where it is. You adjust more tight end sets and you go from there.
One question I did not hear asked, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on it. If Lane Johnson is out, would that impact how much you play Jalen Hurts this week?
I think whether it be this week or next week, you need to play him. Like, we talked about last week, you don't necessarily want him going a whole month without playing. So I think you play him, you adjust the scheme, you adjust the runs. You don't do the quarterback runs unless he has to run. You get him to slide. But at some point, he's going to have to play. Quarterbacks play banged up. Quarterbacks play with bad shoulders. Regardless of how it goes, he's going to have to play. But if Johnson can't go, then you play Driscoll. I think Driscoll played 3 games at right tackle last year. He did fine when Johnson was out with his personal situation. So we've been there. We've done it.
Ian Rappaport said, had the Eagles won against Dallas and wrapped up that number 1 seed, you probably wouldn't have seen Jalen Hurts this week. Now that they still have that number 1 seed dangling out there, it sounds like Jalen Hurts is going to give it a go to try and play. Typically, this was a 10 to 14 day type of injury where it's not going to heal. My understanding is he's not going to further injure it. It just becomes a pain tolerance. What is Jalen's threshold? And I do agree that he is a tough SOB. If it's up to Jalen, he's going to play. What do you think Ric Serritella ultimately decides to do?
I think you let the quarterback decide. I mean, he's an MVP candidate. He's another guy playing on a contract. If he feels like he's a $45 million a year guy, then like Aaron Rodgers and others would do, they would play. So you figure it out. You get your pain threshold out. You play. You get this win over with, and then we could talk about resting him. But regardless of the situation, you can't have him miss a month. Even if they had wrapped it up last week, then it's like, well, when does he play again? Then you get into that divisional matchup. If he struggles or if something goes wrong, we'll go back to he didn't play for a month. So let him play. He wants to be paid like one of the highest paid quarterbacks. That's what they do. That's what they get paid to do.
So no concerns then if you go to Jalen and say, yo, Jalen, buckle up, you ready to go? There's no concerns there that his competitiveness isn't going to get in the way of giving the team the best chance to win. In other words, if he's not feeling like he's going to be a positive impact, but his competitive juices are saying, hey, coach, I'm good to go. You're comfortable with that?
I mean, I think you have to be, because at some point you have to get this over with. If you somehow lose to the Saints, then you're talking about now you're playing important guys against the Giants. If you somehow lose to the Giants, then all the work you did this year, you're possibly on the road and you're not at home, and then it becomes a whole different ball game, a whole different topic of discussion. So regardless of the fact, if you can't go, then you plug him in, shoe in, and you go. But if he can play, he needs to play. They need to win. They need to get this over with, and then we can figure out who plays and who doesn't in the finale.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting. You mentioned the Giants. We'll get into this playoff picture, and the NFC East is really up for grabs mathematically. But the Saints are coming marching in, Glenn, and this is a team. They have not allowed 20 points since week 9. They ran the ball 40 times this past week and won a cold weather ball game. So we've seen that kind of formula. The Eagles have had struggles with that kind of concept. I'll tell you what, I see a team that, at quarterback, it's any given Sunday. It could be Taysom Hill. It could be Winston. We haven't seen him in a while. Dalton, last time out against the Eagles, he actually threw for like almost 400 yards. I'll tell you what, this is not a gimme kind of game that I thought it was a month ago.
No, the Saints are solid up front. They still have Kamara. They still have talented, skilled players. They're a team that's 6-9, one game out in the NFC South. They're a team that the Eagles have their first-round pick, so what better way than to go and upset the Eagles, make that pick drop some more so that they have reasons to play. The coaching staff could be potentially playing for their jobs. So there's a reason. You have Cam Jordan up front. You have a talented linebacker crew. Lattimore may be back, so they have talent, and we need to win.
Yeah, I see their offensive line is picking up and playing good ball as well. 0 sacks allowed last week. They've only allowed 30 sacks on the season, which is a top 10 offensive line for the Saints there. So, I have not seen what the point spread is. Probably won't really know what it is until we get an update on Jalen Hurts. But are you going to put the check mark in the left-hand column for the Eagles this week? What's the prediction from Glenn?
Without a doubt, Rick. I think that they need to win. I think there's a sense of urgency there. I think you have some pissed off guys on both sides of the football, some guys that are a bit embarrassed, so they need to get away from the Pro Bowl stuff, the All-Pro stuff. They're not, 13-1 anymore. They're not undefeated anymore. They're a game away from being just like everyone else. So I think they need to come out. I think they'll come out, make a statement, win, get their number one overall seed, get their rest, and we can talk about the postseason.
And help out their draft positioning in the process, right? They own the Saints pick. It's currently number 10. And, beating the Saints will also help that draft stock. It'll help clinch the first-round seed. And I don't think Ric Serritella wants to go into that Giants game with the number 1 seed and the division. Like, if the Cowboys take care of business against the Titans tomorrow night, which I think they will, and the Eagles were to lose to the Saints, wow, things could get real interesting against the Giants in that final week of the season, huh?
I mean, they have their own clinching scenario, so you don't want a situation where they need to win in Week 18 to either clinch or upgrade their potential positioning. So I think they need to get things done this week. If you don't, then you're talking about a pressurized situation, a game that's likely to be flexed to prime time, and who knows what will happen. A rivalry game, some hard feelings from 2 or 3 years ago when the Eagles allowed Washington to get in the playoffs. So there's a lot of emotion there. There's a lot that could be sitting there if they don't get things done this weekend.
All right, last one for you. As we sit here today, Glenn, Wednesday, December 28th, with the current status of all the players on the 49ers and the Eagles, you take it all into account. They're going to play tomorrow. Who is the best team, do you think, right here, right now?
So we're including Deebo Samuel not being in the lineup.
I guess so, right? I thought he might come back this week, but I'm not sure. So I guess not.
With the way the teams are right now, I give the 49ers the edge on a neutral field just because of their defense and how consistent they've been defensively all year.
I appreciate the honesty. With a fourth string quarterback, it's hard to disagree, though. It's just amazing what the 49ers have built here to be able to get it done with Brock Purdy. I mean, I give this team a shot. I really do. So we shall see. What do you got cooking on the Eagles Newswire over there at SI.com? Make sure you go check out Glenn at Eagles Newswire, at Cover 2 Podcast. Give us the handle. Give us the website. Let us know all the great content you got flowing out there, Glenn.
Like we just talked about, a big week trying to get updated on these injury situations. So we'll be monitoring Maddox. We'll be monitoring Lane Johnson. We'll definitely be monitoring Jalen Hurts, the Saints. You can catch all my work at the Eagles Wire at usatoday.com, the Cover 2 NFL, the Cover 2 Podcast soon to come, and here with you, Rick. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. Always enjoy the Wednesdays, and we'll do it again next week. See where the cookies crumble, my friend.
You guys have a happy New Year if I don't speak to you before then.
Yes, happy New Year. That's Glenn Irby, Eagles Newswire, USA Today. And we're just getting started here on the Football Playbook. An hour power down, an hour power to go. Tone DeShields, the second, holding it down. The producer, Tone. Appreciate you. We're going to go to a commercial break in just a second, but I saw some comments here that I got to get out there. You know, the Cowboys fans are rolling in deep here. All right, we'll take a quick commercial break. I'll come back. We'll talk about the comments, and we will have Kayla Santiago checking in here on the Football Playbook. Buckle up. Tone, we going to break? Or we staying on the split screen? I can stay.
Postgame show with Seth Joyner,
I knew that they had a running game.
Derek Gunn,
He has put in the effort.
Devin Caney,
Had we not won the Super Bowl, what would we be saying?
and Mike Missinelli.
Well, you know who Philly is.
Postgame, now streaming on the 6ABC family of apps.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Number 1, Jeff D'Ambrosio. Destination Downingtown is rolling back prices for a December to remember. For a limited time, you can own, not lease, brand new 2023 Jeep Wranglers for only $30,995 or $339 per month. New Ram starting at only $30,995 or new Ram 1500 Bighorn Crew Cabs $189 per month. Zero down can deliver. Get the price you want, the selection you need, and the VIP treatment you deserve. Jeff D'Ambrosio, Destination Downingtown, Big Finish Sales Event.
Did you know taxes could be your biggest expense during retirement? Are most of your assets in tax-deferred accounts like IRAs and 401ks? Taxes are historically low today, but we're facing significant headwinds in the future. Do you have a plan? The Thrive Financial team has more than 100 years of experience helping people across the Delaware Valley with forward-looking tax planning. Learn how to shift your money from forever tax to no or low tax accounts. Get your Thrive Retirement Tax Playbook today.
Go for the beers, go for the cheers, go for the hit and the hits, go for the scene, go for the screens, go for the gallery, go for the win, go to Ocean.
Back at it again. It's the Football Playbook, Part 81 edition here with you on this beautiful Wednesday, December 28th. Tone DeShields, the second super producer, holding it down behind the scenes. We just had Glenn Irby from the Eagles Newswire, USA Today. Coming up later on in the show is going to be Kyle T. Mosley from SI.com. I can't believe the time is flying here on the Football Playbook. We got an hour power down, an hour power to go. It's usually the time we do the roll call. We got a lot of newbies in here. Let us know what part of the globe, what part of the country, what part of the universe are you checking in from here today? I didn't want to ignore our chat room people. I know we had some comments floating around, and they just go by so fast here. If you want to pop them back up, I'd be happy. I saw some Dallas Cowboys comments floating around. We got the Cowboys fans. They just love the Football Playbook so much. They couldn't get enough of it last week, so they wanted to come back and double down, get another dose. And I got good news for the Cowboys fans. Rarely do we bring good news to Dallas fans, but tomorrow we will have RJ Ochoa from Blogging the Boys. He'll be on to recap the Cowboys-Eagles. He'll also preview the Cowboys-Titans tomorrow night, Thursday night football affair. Adams Exploits wants to know if I have Coach John D. Filippo. We are working on it. We're working through a situation, Adam, and I would say he's a game time decision. 50-50 questionable, but yes, as you know, he took the head coaching job of the New Orleans Breakers. So we're kind of just sorting through some things. Dirt, are you for real? Are you checking in from Paris, France, my friend? Tell me we got another global listener checking in from across the pond over there in Europe. Buckle up. Always love my paisans from across the pond. It must be dinner time. 5 o'clock somewhere. I think, what is it, 6 o'clock in Paris right now? Buckle up. The Villages in Florida, Raymond C. Thanks for joining us. We're here each and every weekday, 10 a.m. to noon Eastern, by the way. Cam's Razor, good to see you, brother. You coming to the tailgate takeover? I got the Lagunitas. Dallas Goddard, hopefully he's got some more targets. I hear you. Birdman sighting. Most likely out for the regular season, Birdman. Not sure about the postseason. Again, it's kind of similar to Jalen, where it's going to be a pain tolerance threshold type of situation. I think Lane will give it a go. Unfortunately, my gut tells me it might be too difficult of a situation when you have a torn muscle in your abdomen and you're a tackle. That's a tough deal. I'll tell you what. I'll say this, Birdman. At this point, I'm going to assume Lane Johnson's out the whole rest of the way. And if he gives us anything, that's a bonus moving forward. All right. I'll tell you what else is a bonus here on the Football Playbook. Each and every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern time. And we're running a few minutes behind here, and she's been waiting patiently in the virtual green room. Kayla Santiago checking in, Delmarva Sports director here on TFP with RIC, checking in down in DC, and hopefully we'll be heading up the turnpike for the tailgate takeover. Good morning, Kayla. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
Oh, I mean, Eagles fans have seen better days. As you know, Christmas was a little bit spoiled. I know you've been busy with Delmarva Sports, but we'll start off with the Cowboys matchup. Obviously, not going according to plan. Maybe not the worst thing, since it looks like these two teams are on par for a third matchup. What were your takeaways from the Cowboys game?
I'm not mad about it that they lost, because I did say if the Eagles were to lose a game, it has to be this Cowboys game, especially if they're going to play them in the playoffs, because there's just no way you beat a team 3 times in a season. I mean, everybody would love to think that, but I just think that's easier said than done. So I think it sets them up a little bit better for the postseason. I'm a little bit worried about the defense. I think that Dallas was able to kind of exploit them a little bit in that game, and we'll see how they kind of rally against the Saints and then the Giants and kind of get ready for that playoff push. Of course, Lane Johnson going down definitely isn't the best thing in the world either, so that offensive line's going to have to figure it out. And I don't think Gardner Minshew played bad. I think there's situations that Jalen Hurts has gotten out a little bit faster and created a little bit more plays, but Minshew, I mean, he put the points up on the board. Honestly, it was a shootout for most part of it. And at the same time, I think it's good to see that the offense was rolling, and quote unquote, Dallas is a really good defense, but the Eagles were able to put up a lot of touchdowns on them. So wasn't my favorite game to watch ever, especially watching with my cousins that are Dallas fans. It was a little bit tough. They had some bragging rights, but listen, if you needed to lose a game, it was now, and it just prepares them to get ready for the playoffs if they have to face them in the second round.
Yeah, my brother was a Cowboys fan. Never a pleasurable experience watching a football game with the Dallas Cowboys fan. I can vouch for that. You mentioned the defense. You're too young to remember NES. Nintendo had a game called Mike Tyson Punch-Out, and the first opponent was Glass Joe, and there would be the A-B combo that you would just hit Glass Joe, and he would stand there. You'd hit him left, right, and he'd just stand there and then fall out. Jonathan Gannon was just standing there like Glass Joe, getting hit as Dak Prescott lit up the Eagles secondary like a Christmas tree, 24 out of 24 against zone coverage, at one point making 19 consecutive completions. You know, Mike McCarthy was brazen in his press conference leading up to this game. He said, in so many words, I'm paraphrasing now, we've owned the Eagles because we've had better quarterback play. That was very apparent once again this past weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you look at this game and you look at the offense of Dallas, and they have key pieces, but there's no reason they should put 40 points on a defense that is pretty secure at the moment, especially that secondary. I'm hoping that Darius Slay will play a little bit better next week. Didn't love what I saw for him against Dallas, but I just think it's one of those games you don't have your leader there with you in every single first rep in practice due to his injury. Lane Johnson goes down towards the end there. And I just think that against Dallas, you put up a big fight. You had a backup quarterback in. Things weren't falling the way you wanted to. It's time to kind of get back to that playbook and make sure that they're ready, and Jonathan Gannon has them prepared for the last 2 games of the season, because that defense is just not going to work in the playoffs.
Yeah, and suddenly the secondary is just in disarray. I don't know if it's a communication thing. I don't know if it's a scheming thing. I don't know if Darius Slay has just kind of lost a few miles per hour off of the fastball. I surely did not appreciate him pointing fingers pretty much at Josiah Scott, who has been a roller coaster ride himself this season. And I think the Dallas game exposed him to the point where I would tend to agree with the sentiment in the chat room is we don't want to see Josiah Scott out there in the slot. So I saw somebody mention Andre Chicheri. I don't know if he's the answer. I'm thinking Kayvon Wallace will be the guy if Chauncey Gardner-Johnson can't suit up this week. I did hear the chat room informs me that Chauncey's back at practice today, so we won't know what his status is. But again, Jonathan Gannon saying, we're going to do what we do. They need to adapt and adjust to us. Gannon, I don't think he gets it, but he's got to do something about the personnel, quite frankly, especially right here, right now, this upcoming week against the Saints.
This is not something that you want to fall apart towards the end of the season, especially Darius Slay. This guy is supposed to be a veteran and a leader. Yes, Josiah Scott is not playing how anybody wants him to play, but if you're Darius Slay, your job is to be back there and kind of be the quarterback of that whole entire secondary and make sure you're helping these guys get better each and every game. CJ Gardner-Johnson, not having him for the past few weeks has really hurt. I mean, he was absolutely balling out when he was in with the Philadelphia Eagles. So hopefully get him back, whether it's this week or against the New York Giants. But they need to wake up, to be honest with you. And this secondary, we've talked about it before, very, very good on paper coming into the season, really proved that they were a good secondary with CJ Gardner-Johnson and Darius Slay throughout the year. But at the same time, you cannot have these guys fall apart towards the end of the season, because defenses can win championships, and this is going to be a brutal, brutal playoff run, especially if you face the Dallas Cowboys, and you cannot allow them to put up 40 points in the playoffs. It's just unacceptable.
Whew, a 40 burger. Yeah. And, you know, I have a feeling when Chauncey does come back, he's going to be playing a lot of that slot nickelback type of role. Now, he's only lined up in the slot 13% of his rep count I saw. He did, however, play, I think, last year with the Saints, 70% of his snaps were in the slot as a cornerback. So with Reed Blankenship playing the way he is, when Gardner-Johnson comes back and Maddox, assuming we know he's out for the regular season, I don't know how long into the postseason. He's another one whose durability, you can't make the club in the tub. This guy's always hurt. Can't put a lot of faith in Avonte Maddox. Is Chauncey Gardner moved to the slot inevitable, do you think, when he returns?
I think you have to at least try it out, and I think that's what they're going to do. Just because of Avonte Maddox, I just don't see him coming back. I mean, he's been a constant, just these little nagging injuries that have kept him out. And I don't know if they're going to push him to be back in the playoffs. I think that's where you need to move him, because he can play there and he can be so effective wherever he is on the field. And that's a spot that is so badly needed in that secondary to really kind of amp up and make those plays. So I think when he comes back, that's exactly where he's going to be. And maybe they try it out in the Saints game. Maybe they try it out in the Giants game, whether he comes back for the Saints or the Giants. Fingers crossed he's back during the regular season game, of course, but see what happens. You try it out. If it doesn't work, maybe then you go back to the drawing board. But I think right now that's just a necessity.
Yeah, we shall see. I know the Saints are marching into town. This is a team that ran the ball 40 times this past week. And the Eagles, they have kind of shored up that run defense, but they're going to need to do that again this week with the team looking to run the ball. They haven't allowed 20 points since week 9, believe it or not. So where are you in terms of this Eagles defensive line unit now? Reddick and Sweat showed up this past week. Everybody else, not so much.
Yeah, I mean, I love watching Josh Sweat. Just being able to see him grow in the way he has with the Philadelphia Eagles has been exciting to watch. But once again, if you're the Eagles right now, that defense has to lock in and figure it out. You don't do great against the Dallas Cowboys in that run defense. You need to figure it out now against the New Orleans Saints because you're going up against teams in the playoffs once again, and I'll keep bringing it up. If you face the Dallas Cowboys, you know that they have that double-edged sword of the run defense, and they're able to get things done in the passing game. You have to figure it out. I mean, Fletcher Cox has to wake up a little bit. He has to be there. He has to be that guy. He has the experience. He's the veteran. I get he's not as quick and as agile as he used to be, but this is where it's going to matter most if he can pick everybody up. And I think more guys have to set up. Hassan Reddick and Josh Sweat have to keep doing what they're doing, but at the same time, everybody else needs to step up. This team had a great rotation during the regular season throughout the middle of the season before Jordan Davis went down. They need to get back to sticking to that and making sure that they are able to come out alive because this is not the time where players just decide not to show up in games. It's not the time. You cannot go in towards the end of the season kind of half marking it there and then expect to light it up in the playoffs. You have to keep it going and hope that it all ends up working out once you face playoff contenders.
Yeah, and we've been a little bit quiet there up front with Brandon Graham. He was the defensive player of the week a couple weeks ago, and then kind of has been quiet the last couple of weeks. Fletcher Cox, it seems like, has been at least a month, maybe longer, since he's had a big game. And you're right, he was playing at a very high level. Once they brought in Sue and Linville Joseph, Fletcher Cox was playing. It looked like he was a rejuvenated man. And then the last couple of weeks here, we've seen him kind of under the radar. Maybe it's time to put Jordan Davis back in. Maybe it's time to tweak some things on the defense. Maybe work in Nakobe Dean at the linebacker spot here over the last couple of games since TJ Edwards suddenly has become somewhat of a liability in the pass game. Kaiser White, his play seems like has also fallen off here down the stretch. So the defense needs to get it right and get it tight. And we're talking to Kayla Santiago, the Marvel Sports Director here on the Football Playbook, along with Ric Serritella on this Wednesday, December 28th. 3 days remaining in this 2022. Unbelievable. Let's talk a little bit about the offense, Kayla. You were happy with Gardner Minshew's performance. I was not as high. I've probably been harder on Gardner Minshew than maybe anybody in the Philadelphia media. I just wanted to see a W. I felt like he had all the tools at his disposal, and I wanted to see more. It looked good from a stat perspective. He threw the ball all over the lot, had a ton of yardage. A lot of that, though, was kind of force-fed, I felt. Like A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, they made some incredible catches, I think, to make Minshew look a lot better than what he really was.
I think it was really good to see Devonta Smith make the catch he makes. I just remember towards the end of that game, Devonta Smith literally reaching all the way up and kind of backwards to bring down that ball. And it's good to see Smith being able to make those catches. Listen, he's a backup quarterback for a reason. And there's no doubt in my mind if Jalen Hurts starts that game, they win that game. He's just able to get out of the pocket so much better. He's able to air it out and has that trust in A.J. Brown and not making them completely go out of their way to catch it, but allowing them to get it in front of them so they can go for that extra yardage. Gardner Minshew, I think, played well. Does he have a lot of pieces? Yes, but he doesn't always get these reps with these guys. He was a starter at one point in his career, but he's a backup right now. And it's kind of what I expected for a backup quarterback. For them to be able to put up that performance, though, and those many points against a great Dallas defense, right. I mean, listen, that's what everybody's saying, right? Micah Parsons is this big defender that everybody loves and had a decent game as well, but you're putting up that many scores against this Dallas defense with a backup quarterback. I'm not saying I was impressed by any means, but looking back at that game, I say, all right, well, Gardner Minshew did what he was supposed to do. Of course, everybody wanted an Eagles win, but At the same time, he's not the starter for a reason, and Jalen Hurts in that situation wins that game. Gardner Minshew did what he needed, and I just hope that, respectfully, we don't see him for the rest of the season.
No, fair enough. I think the biggest thing is the big play explosion is kind of eliminated with Gardner Minshew, and it really in the run game and the pass game, because with Minshew, like you heard him say after the game, somebody asked him how much the offense changed. He said really not much, just the designed run calls that normally they would tend to call for Jalen Hurts, and on the zone reads, the RPOs, Gardner is not going to leave any linebackers shaking in their boots if he decides to take it and run the ball. And then I think in the passing game, like this is the one area that Jalen Hurts has improved more than anything this season is the deep ball accuracy and the touch. And we've talked about this, just like being able to drop it in the bucket, deep downfield for big plays. It was just kind of not there. If it was, you didn't feel great about it. You were hoping for a 50-50 jump ball and the receiver would come down with it. So that being said, Lane Johnson to me is just as big, if not bigger, of an injury than Jalen Hurts. Shane Steichen said it's not going to change how they call the offense, but I don't know. I mean, it's clearly not going to be as good of a unit. And I don't know if it's going to be Dillard, if it's going to be Driscoll, how they're going to play it. This is a significant injury, and I know there's some hope in the chat room that, we can shoot up Lane Johnson with painkillers and he'll be okay. But when you've got a torn abdomen and you're a tackle, it's damn near impossible to execute at a very high level. I don't know if Lane Johnson's going to be able to do it. I have no idea. We do know he's not going to play the next 2 games. How much of an impact is this long-term if Lane Johnson misses the playoffs?
It's a huge impact. And I think it's going to be extremely tough in the playoffs to be able to really win games without Lane Johnson. And it's unfortunate because he has been playing at such a high level and so consistent this year. And you just look at the quarterback play of Jalen Hurts. You need those blockers in there. This is a quarterback that likes to run the ball and likes to create extra yards when the passing game's not there. And you can't do that without a good offensive line. And that offensive line, a big part of it is Lane Johnson. You need people to make sure that Hurts isn't getting absolutely clocked. And Lane Johnson is a guy that's able to do that, not allowing any quarterback sacks or only a few to Jalen Hurts, and he just has been playing out of his mind this year. It also helps in the run game. I think it's extremely tough. They can say all they want, oh, we're not going to change the offense, but the offense changes absolutely on that field without Lane Johnson. And it's not like there's not a drop-off. The offensive line doesn't necessarily have the rotation that the defensive line did in that midseason, and it's unfortunate. I think seeing him going down is definitely hurting a lot of Eagles fans, and I think the Eagles are going to feel it. I'll be interested to see if Jalen Hurts comes back this week, how they're kind of going to adjust that. And in my mind, I'm hoping that Jalen Hurts does come back this week so that they can kind of get 2 games to test out what they have without Lane Johnson before they go into the playoffs and face that really tough competition.
Yeah, and one last note I'll make about that is, Leighton Vander Esch was out this week for the Cowboys, so Micah played a lot more linebacker and fewer reps rushing the quarterback. When they meet again, if Vander Esch is back for the playoffs, best believe the Cowboys are going to be lining up Micah all day long, moving him around. Whoever the weakest link, wherever Andre Dillard or Jack Driscoll lines up, Micah Parsons will find him. And I think that could be a pretty big deal when they meet again come round 3. Kayla Santiago, Ric Serritella, chopping it up, breaking it down, battling a little bit of the bird flu, Kayla.
Yeah, unfortunately, something's going around. Luckily, it's not COVID, but coming back from the holidays, was home for a day, and we get to this tournament, and everybody's just a little bit stuffy. I got the cough, calling like 4 to 5 games a day, so we're working. We've got the hot water with lemon and honey here, so it's helping. It coats
the green tea you gotta get.
I know green tea. I'll have it a little bit. I'm having a hot drink like every hour, so fingers crossed it works.
No doubt. All right, let's talk about one thing that is definitely changing on the offense. Miles Sanders, again with the fumble, putting the ball on the carpet. We saw Sirianni kind of chew his ass out a couple weeks back. This week, they just turned to Kenneth Gainwell. Miles was out on social media just liking tweets and doing this and doing silly stuff. What is going on with Miles Sanders? I mean, this is not the time of the year to be playing games.
I think with Miles Sanders, it's a big mental game for him. I think that, he's been really good all season long. He's been utilized the way he wants to, and he has a few bad games. And then it kind of gets into his head a little bit of, what if I go out there and fumble again? And maybe to him and Nick Sirianni right now don't have the best relationship, but Nick Sirianni is doing what he needs to do and is holding Miles Sanders accountable. This guy is a big difference maker in this Eagles offense if he's able to mentally be there and be that player for them. And Nick Sirianni needs to do what he do and keep this guy accountable. I mean, I get it. It's the NFL, but at the same time, you need a coach in your ear saying, dude, we're not going to win games without you. You need to step up and be this guy. And right now, I think Miles Sanders just in his head a little bit. I don't really like the fact that they went completely away from him, though. I understand that he was fumbling the ball a little bit and not playing his best game, but he's your number one running back. And if he makes mistakes, he's going to have to go out there and prove that he doesn't make them again. And I think you just need to keep putting the ball in his hands. Listen, I get it. You don't want to see him fumble the ball, and neither do I in these games. But at the same time, he is your running back number one. And if you take the ball completely out of his hands, that confidence keeps going lower. So I think that they need to push that a little bit, give him another chance out there. And I think we need to see a lot more handoffs to him in this New Orleans Saints game in order for him to kind of get back to where he needs to be. Because if you alleviate that in the playoffs and you don't have Lane Johnson, it's not going to be a fun road for the Philadelphia Eagles.
It's intriguing, I'll tell you that. And you kind of ran me right into my next question, which was going to be a two-parter. What is the Kayla Santiago confidence level in Miles Sanders? And what do you think the confidence level is of the one Nick Sirianni confidence level in Miles Sanders?
I mean, I think Nick Sirianni kind of showed that he's not afraid to go away from Miles Sanders and that he's not necessarily – Miles Sanders is the number one guy. Like, of course, he's the number one running back for the Philadelphia Eagles, but he's not afraid to go away from him. And maybe that shows that he doesn't have much confidence in him. For me, I don't like the fumbles, and I get that he has a history of that. But this year, he has been pretty consistent, and he's stayed healthy. And in my opinion, the only way to allow him to keep getting better is to put the ball in his hands and make sure that he's trying to push the rock as much as he can. Now, if he does the same crap in the New Orleans Saints game, all right, then I get it, Nick Sirianni. Then you have to go away from him. But I think that you need to give this guy the ball because you need him in the playoffs. With Jalen Hurts not being 100%, with Lane Johnson out, he's a guy you're going to have to rely on. And the only way that you can assure that he's going to be there is if you put the ball in his hands.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting end of the season because suddenly there's so many question marks on this Eagles team that was cruising right at 13-1. They lose the game. Suddenly, I don't want to say the sky is falling, but you've got your two best players hurt in Hurts and Lane Johnson. You got your 1,000-yard running back confidence kind of waning here. And then the defense has got some issues there to kind of figure out. And they've only got about, I think, 35 days or so until the Super Bowl. I'll tell you, this Saints team, don't sleep on this team. Their defense is good. Remember, this was a team with playoff expectations coming into the season, Kayla, and mathematically, technically, they're still alive. I think they got a 2% chance to win the division and sneak into to the back door of the playoffs here. So they are playing for something. I don't know. I haven't checked what the spread or the line is. I think it might be around 6 points or so. How do you see the Saints and the Eagles game playing out this Sunday?
I think for the Saints, it's going to kind of be the mentality of they have nothing to lose, and they're going to go in there. They're going to be physical, and they're going to play hardball. And I think that the Eagles need to be on top of their game. It can't be like, oh, we're going to go play the New Orleans Saints, and, it's going to be an automatic win. No, you need to go in there, and you need to compete, and you need to revamp this defense and this offense. This team, when it's winning, is all happy. It's all confident. They're all together. But you need to play like that when you're losing as well. You can't have Darius Slay pointing fingers. You can't have Miles Sanders throwing a hissy fit on the sideline and Kenny Gainwell coming in and doing what he needs to do. You need to have these guys together because if this team falls apart and says, we're going to go up against the Saints and keep pointing fingers, there's no way they're going to do well in the playoffs. So this is a game that I think the Eagles actually need to win to kind of get back to that. And you need to see that confidence coming back to the defense, and especially Miles Sanders as well. And I think, listen, the Saints are going to go in there. They're going to compete. They're not necessarily playing for a playoff spot unless that 0.2% chance actually happens. But it's a physical team, and I think that they're going to come in with nothing to lose, and the Eagles need to play up to that and don't play down to the Saints at all.
Yeah, and I think that you play Jalen, you get the W, you seal up the number 1 seed, because last thing you want to do is go into the final week still with the division up for grabs, the number 1 seed up for grabs, and then, oh, by the way, you got to play Jalen again. Like, I think playing Jalen could be beneficial. If he says he's good to go, seal the deal, clinch the number 1 seed, wrap up the division, and then he gets a bye week before the bye week with the Giants. You don't have to play Jalen. Is that kind of how you would go? And do you think at the end of the day, gun to your head, is Jalen going to suit up on Sunday?
I think he needs to. If he's 100%, I mean, I know he's not technically 100%, but if he says he's ready to go, I think you have to play him, because we've talked about this before, right? If the Eagles end up winning with Gardner Minshew against the Saints, that means Jalen Hurts is sitting out 4 weeks before he plays in the playoffs. That's a month of no football play and gameplay. You can't do that when you go into the playoffs. If you're facing the Dallas Cowboys, or if it's going to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, or whoever it's going to be, you cannot have that. And I think, once again, this is a must-win game for them. Of course, they're going to get into the playoffs no matter what, right? You probably look at the record and the division and say, Kayla, you sound crazy saying it's a must-win game. But at the same time, you don't want to let the Dallas Cowboys creep up, because if the Eagles lose out, the Cowboys win out, this whole thing is completely different. The Vikings are right there as well. You cannot have any slip-ups right here. It's crazy to even be saying that it's all this close, but it really, really is. And I think if Jalen Hurts is just able to play, you got to play him. Then you don't play him the last week, but at least he gets that gameplay rep before going into the playoffs.
Yeah, and guess what? The Vikings, and don't count out the 49ers, because they've got the Raiders and the Cardinals, I believe. They're going to win out. And so you can't afford any slippage here. And, man, those 49ers are going to go into the playoffs on like a 10-game winning streak. I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Glenn. As we sit here today on December 28th, if the Eagles were to play the 49ers, who's the better team, do you think?
Oh, that's so tough. I think on paper it's the Eagles, but I think with how the 49ers have just been spewing out, it's the 49ers. For whatever reason, they're making their third quarterback system work. This team is so locked in, and I think it will be an absolute fun game to watch, but I think right now the 49ers just have that momentum at the right time, and the Eagles don't have the momentum right now, if we're going to be honest. With seeing that last game, seeing how there's not trust in certain players, seeing how different things are going in the secondary, I think right now the 49ers are just the better team because they're hot at the right time. Does that change maybe in a few weeks? Maybe, but unfortunately, I think San Francisco right now is just a top team in the NFC, and it's kind of crazy to think because they have dealt with a ton of adversity this year, and they still come out on top, which for a franchise, I mean, for a football fan watching that, it's kind of cool to watch. So I think that they would be the better team.
It's unbelievable. Down goes Debo, down goes Jimmy G, and they just look like a better team. Unbelievable what the 49ers are doing. Unbelievable how time flies when we have you here each and every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern. Are you making the journey up to the tailgate takeover this Sunday, by the way?
Yes, I will. Just let me know what time, and I'll be there.
All right. Yes, we will talk more off the air. I plan on getting there early. I know Fourth and John and Gail Saunders, they're setting up at 6 a.m. I can't promise I'll be down there that early. But we'll be down there chopping it up with all the listeners. So looking forward. It's been a while since I've seen you, Kayla, so looking forward to that. I'll get you the details off the air and then let everybody else know at home where to find you, all the great content that you're doing, and anything else you got cooking over at Delmarva Sports.
Yeah, right now we have the Governor's Challenge, which is basically the top high school teams in the country coming to play. Actually, we're going to see IFG Blues for the first time, a 7'6" sophomore. I'm not kidding. He's 7'6" at 15 years old playing basketball. So first time we're seeing him on the court, which has been absolutely awesome. We'll be with the Blue Coats coming up as well on our ESPN Plus coverage. Got their games coming up. They're now going to be into their regular season. They just finished their Showcase Cup as well. So it'll be fun with that. The Sixers G League team, of course. And then, of course, here each and every Wednesday and a ton of new stuff coming too. We've got some documentaries coming out. So if you follow me on Twitter at Kayla_Santiago1, all the details for that. Can't say too much yet, but it's going to really change some lives, I think. So very excited about that. It'll be coming out at the beginning of February.
Love that. What kind of numbers is that 7'6" sophomore averaging? Is he putting up some kind of? I would imagine he's got some impressive numbers. No.
Yeah, I mean, he averages about a double-double, 12 and 12 a game. We have him earlier today, and then he also plays in our late game today. But it's crazy. I mean, that IMG team is just so talented. They come from Florida. Luckily, they got a flight over here because I know flights have been canceled due to the blizzards happening everywhere. But yeah, I mean, he's absolutely crazy watching tape of him because, we like to watch a lot of film before we broadcast these games. And I'm just like, this is unfair. I mean, this is crazy. And me standing next to him, I'm probably going to look like extremely short. But no, he's pretty good and he's pretty coordinated. So if you see him in the NBA, I saw him first. Just have to point that out. He'll be here on the high school floors and it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, it's like having Sean Bradley on a high school team and the basketball Sean Bradley, not the Eagles Sean Bradley. But hey, always appreciate the time, Kayla. Looking forward to seeing you on Sunday. Come hungry. We'll have tomato pies, cheesesteaks. The beer will be flowing. Can't wait. Buckle up.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And go Birds. Hopefully it's a win against the Saints. So we'll see.
We shall see. And when we come back from our commercial break, we're going to go across behind the enemy lines with our good friend Kyle T. Mosley of SI.com, who does a great job covering the Saints. Also does an outstanding job covering the HBCU schools for Sports Illustrated. So we'll take a quick commercial break. Tone DeShields II is going to take us out of here. Smash that like button, and we'll see you in 2 minutes, everybody.
Postgame show with Seth Joyner.
I knew that they had a running game.
Derek Gunn.
He has put in the effort.
Devin Caney.
Had we not won the Super Bowl, what would we be saying?
And Mike Missinelli.
Well, you know who Philly is.
Postgame, now streaming on the 6ABC family of apps.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Number 1, Jeff D'Ambrosio. Destination Downingtown is rolling back prices for a December to remember. For a limited time, you can own, not lease, brand new 2023 Jeep Wranglers for only $30,995 or $339 per month. New Rams starting at only $30,995 or new Ram 1500 Bighorn Crew Cabs $189 per month. Zero down can deliver. Get the price you want, the selection you need, and the VIP treatment you deserve. Jeff D'Ambrosio, Destination Downingtown, Big Finish Sales Event.
Did you know taxes could be your biggest expense during retirement? Are most of your assets in tax-deferred accounts like IRAs and 401ks? Taxes are historically low today, but we're facing significant headwinds in the future. Do you have a plan? The Thrive Financial team has more than 100 years of experience helping people across the Delaware Valley with forward-looking tax planning. Learn how to shift your money from forever tax to no or low tax accounts. Get your Thrive Retirement Tax Playbook today.
Go for the beers, go for the cheers, go for the hit and the hits, go for the scene, go for the screens, go for the gallery, go for the win, go to Ocean.
Back at it again. It's the Football Playbook with your boy RIC in the place to be. Ric Serritella here at the Jersey Shore, broadcasting around the universe. Shout out to all our chat room people all over the globe. We got people in Paris, in Europe, across the pond, down in Mexico, north of the border, right here in Philly Dilly, East Coast, West Coast. I didn't see Lucy today. Where's the San Diego sighting? By the way, I see a lot of newbies in the chat room. A lot of long times, a lot of occasional listeners. We're here weekdays, 10 a.m. to noon Eastern. Buckle up. Double chin strap affair, 2 hours of power. Good to see True Savage, 5-star FSG, Niners all damn day. Davey Boy, I'm the one. 5-star FSG, Jason Dean. Man, the Birdman, South Philly's finest, representing here on this Wednesday, December 28th. And we got to represent. Hi, Paisana. There's Lucy. And we got to represent with our good friend down in New Orleans, Kyle T. Mosley, checking in with the cameo here on the Football Playbook. Good morning, Kyle.
What's going on? What's going on, Rick? How you doing, my friend?
It's always a good day when I'm talking football with Kyle T. Mosley. And, of course, we had you here a couple months back with the Alvin Kamara trade rumors. Did a great job. And we'll get into some of the other things. I want to mention the HBCU Bowl as well. In February, I attended the inaugural event last year. Excited to get back down there. We'll try to sneak that in here before the end of the segment. But wanted to get your finger on the pulse with the Saints, who came into the season with playoff expectations. I would say the season hasn't exactly gone according to plan, but this is a better team than what their record says they are. Now, you are what your record says you are, which is a 6-9 program. But, man, this defense has not allowed 20 points since week 9. That's pretty damn impressive. And I see here they ran the ball 40 times a week ago. They pulled out a cold weather win. That is a winning formula if you do want to defeat the Philadelphia Eagles. I would give the Saints here a puncher's shot coming into this ball game. How do you see it?
Well, any given Sunday, right? And if you look at what's going on with the New Orleans Saints as well as Philadelphia, I think Philly is just trying to get their footing or whatever you want to call it, their claws together, talents together after Jalen Hurts has been injured, and we're hearing that he may be available for the game. You could be able to shed a little bit more light on that.
You guys got me?
I'm sorry?
Is that me or is that Kyle or is that me? You got me, Tone?
Can you guys hear me?
The Football Playbook here.
Go to get your game
you guys
on.
hear me out there in the
Go
chat
for the
room
beers.
universe? I can't see.
Go for the cheers.
Frozen on my
Go
end
for the
or
hits.
frozen on
And the
your
hits. Go for the steaks.
Somebody? Anybody?
And the steaks. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
Philadelphia fans, we're cut from a different cloth. Born into a brotherhood and bonded to our team for life. We believe anything is possible because we've witnessed the impossible. While we may be from different neighborhoods, come Sunday, we are one, and we will be heard. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Postgame show with Seth Joyner,
I knew that they had a running game.
Derek Gunn,
He has put in the effort.
Devin Caney,
Had we not won the Super Bowl, what would we be saying?
and Mike Missinelli.
Well, you know who Philly is.
Postgame, now streaming on the 6ABC family of apps.
greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Number 1, Jeff D'Ambrosio. Destination Downingtown is rolling back prices for a December to remember. For a limited time, you can own, not lease, brand new 2023 Jeep Wranglers for only $30,995 or $339 per month. New Ram starting at only $30,995 or new Ram 1500 Bighorn Crew Cabs $189 per month. Zero down can deliver. Get the price you want, the selection you need, and the VIP treatment you deserve. Jeff D'Ambrosio, Destination Downingtown, Big Finish Sales Event.
Did you know taxes could be your biggest expense during retirement? Are most of your assets in tax-deferred accounts like IRAs and 401ks? Taxes are historically low today, but we're facing significant headwinds in the future. Do you have a plan? The Thrive Financial team has more than 100 years of experience helping people across the Delaware Valley with forward-looking tax planning. Learn how to shift your money from forever tax to no or low tax accounts. Get your Thrive Retirement Tax Playbook today.
Go for the beers, go for the cheers, go for the hit and the hits, go for the scene, go for the screens, go for the gallery, go for the win, go to Ocean.
All right, back at it again. It's the Football Playbook. Ric Serritella here. Kyle T. Mosley there down in New Orleans. Appreciate you hanging through the technical difficulties. And, of course, SI.com, New Orleans Saints, HBCU. Kyle T. Mosley dropping knowledge here, giving us a finger on the pulse when we talk about the New Orleans Saints. And this defense, Kyle, I want to start off right there because, again, they have not allowed 20 points since week 9. I look at the secondary, especially. It's littered with talented players. Alante Taylor was a guy I liked coming out of Tennessee. You put him back there with Bradley Roby. I see Paulson Adebo, the Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu still back there making plays. This is a very stout defense led by, surprisingly, the secondary.
Yeah, well, surprisingly so, because the secondary was having some issues in the middle of the season, especially when Roby as well as Marshawn Lattimore went down and they were out for a number of games. And Marshawn still hasn't returned yet. He's now a little bit more healthy. They anticipate that he could be able to be in the Eagles game. Still not sure about that as well. But the defensive line has really played very well as well. You look at Cam Jordan, the 13-year veteran, who, in a few sacks, I think he has 2.5 sacks away from eclipsing Ricky Jackson for the franchise all-time record. And you have Marcus Davenport. He's healthy again. The young guy, Carl Granderson, has really been a steal for the New Orleans Saints, since they brought him on from his days in Wyoming and, had that little legal trouble at first. And you look at Peyton Turner, who really hasn't been a factor, the former number 1 draft pick from last season, but he still could be able to come into a game and affect the game if he's healthy or not. The problem has also been with the Saints with the linebacking core. Pete Warner has been in and out due to injury. You have some replacements like Caden Ellis, who's done a fabulous job. And, you have the old vet, all-pro Demario Davis, who's going to just be who he is, a tackling machine. So the defense has always been the strength of the team for the past, past three, 4 seasons. Even when Drew Brees was there, his arm was still waning, but the defense was the strength of the team. So right now, if the Saints have any chance to win these next 2 games, you have to rely on the defense.
No, that's a great overview perspective there of the Saints defensive breakdown. man, you did a great job covering it all. I will say DeMario Davis playing solid ball. Caden Ellis is interesting because Christian Ellis, his brother, is a member of the Philadelphia Eagles, just got signed to the 53-man roster, actually, full-time here a couple weeks ago. And I see Caden Ellis has kind of come on like gangbusters down the stretch. I mean, he's blowing up the backfield. He's making all kinds of tackles behind the line of scrimmage. And it's coming at a good time, no? Because I think he's going to be an unrestricted free agent after the season.
Yeah, he should be having the interest of a number of teams who's looking for somebody. But I think he has a good chance to remain with the New Orleans Saints, especially if Dennis Allen remains with the Saints, because he's very high on Caden.
Well, we'll get into that topic, I'm sure, before the segment is over. But let's talk about the offense first. Any given Sunday, as you said, we haven't seen Jameis back there in a while. I guess the injuries have been too much to overcome. It seems like we can get Taysom Hill in spurts, and then he disappears. Then he comes back around again. I know Andy Dalton threw for almost 400 yards the last time he faced the Eagles. I'm assuming Dalton is going to start. Are we going to see Taysom Hill? How does that whole quarterback situation, is it a week-to-week thing, Kyle? How do they play that?
No, you're going to find Dalton. He's going to be the starter. And unless he has a significant injury, I think he's going to be the starter throughout the remainder of the season. The situation between Coach Allen and Jameis Winston is a puzzling situation. And I say that very lightly because Jameis wanted to play, and Jameis had the ability to come back from the 4 vertebrae that were cracked, and I think he's pretty healthy at the moment. But I also believe that Dalton was more of a Allen type of guy, someone who's conservative, who's not going to be erratic at times, and you can't say that Dalton has protected the ball any better than Jameis did last season, because I think his interception rate is higher than Jameis's. So I just think it was just a confluence of, do you have a guy that you can trust, or do you go with a guy that who has a high threshold, and Jameis can be able to do that. The concern with Dalton has been for the New Orleans Saints, can he win a game for you? And that's why they haven't had back-to-back wins. There were times where Dalton needed to be able to put the team in position to win, and he could not deliver. So I think that was some of the issues that from a media standpoint, and some of the fans viewed as well, why wouldn't you put Jameis back into the fold? Now, here's the thing about Taysom Hill. Unless Taysom Hill has 9+ touches per game, the Saints usually lose. And what was puzzling against the Browns is that he did not get into the game and have any action until 21 offensive plays were already ran. And once he did get into the game, he and Alvin Kamara just, as a tandem, really put it to the Browns. And that's how they were able to have 17 unanswered points, as well as the defense shut them down in the second half and won the game.
Yeah, it's such a weird formula to get to the W. So with that being said, are we going to see that? Like, to me, if the Saints want to win in Philly, they might need some chicanery and some Taysom Hill looks. So is that something that the Eagles should anticipate seeing? Because I feel like we don't see Taysom Hill for like a couple weeks, and then all of a sudden he comes out and they take the cat out of the bag, and it's just a weird dynamic. I mean, what can we expect, or should we not anticipate? Because I don't think the Saints know from week to week how they're going to employ a Taysom Hill.
Yeah, it's hard. What to expect is the unexpected. That's what to expect with the Saints. And you're right, the inconsistency in the play calling has been something that was kind of weird, because Pete Carmichael for a number of years was right there under Sean Payton. But I think it also signifies that you saw why Sean Payton was the play caller primarily for a lot of times. I know there was a season where Pete Carmichael did do the play calls with Drew Brees when Sean Payton was out due to his suspension. There were some stretches in seasons where Sean Payton allowed Pete Carmichael to call the plays, and he just sat back and did his head coaching duties. And those times you saw a high production from the New Orleans Saints, but there was a lack of balance as well. And you saw that early on in season where he and Jameis were not on the same page sometimes. And sometimes when there was obvious run plays, there were passing plays. And there were some passing plays you were like, you need just 2-3 yards to pick up first down, and you throw on 20 to 30 yards down the field. So, yeah, there's inconsistencies there. I don't know what to expect, but the Saints need to be able to put some points on the board if they're going to be able to contend against the Philadelphia Eagles.
Talking to Kyle T. Mosley here on the Football Playbook. Couple last notes on the offensive side. Everybody tends to think the Saints are just a ground and pound, running with Kamara, sprinkling Taysom Hill, but football fans are starting to learn some of these wide receivers the Saints have. One was expected to do big things. The other, not so much, and is doing big things. Tell me about Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed.
Wow. Shaheed is the biggest surprise and the most pleasant surprise of the whole season. And it doesn't overshadow what Chris Olave, the number one draft choice, is doing and has done for the Saints. But Rashid, you look at Chris Olave and you pair him with Rashid, and if they're able to get another number 3 wide receiver or have Michael Thomas become healthy and stay with the team, you're looking at a very, very potent offensive dynamic for the New Orleans Saints, because Olave knows how to fill those gaps in the zones, sit down, wait for the pass, give Dalton a target. He's done it all season. I think that's why he's a contender for Rookie of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year. And Shaheed, man, he just brings that downfield presence. The speed has really been alarming to some of the defensive coordinators out there. So you look at an undrafted guy like Rashid, and you look at Chris Olave, and if they're able to get a couple more of those guys in the fold to really produce, the Saints still have a good future at the wide receiving position.
Yeah, I saw my guy, Temple Tough, Keith Kirkwood, is getting a few third down reps.
Yeah.
So hopefully we see him sprinkled into the mix there.
He came back to the Saints.
Yeah. And Olave, yeah, you're right. I think he's in for a big week. The Eagles currently struggling mightily in zone coverage. Olave, I saw, is thriving in zone coverage. Now, you mentioned Sean Payton in this segment. I mean, he's now including Vic Fangio as a package deal as his defensive coordinator, I hear. Numerous teams reportedly interested, and I saw a report yesterday. Maybe he could reunite with the Saints, who actually own his rights. Is this a real thing, Kyle? Ali.
Look, rumors, right? Right now, if you're playing the odds right now in Vegas, I think the odds are high that he's going to return next season. I just don't know if it's Arizona, if it's Denver, or New Orleans. Sean Payton doesn't strike me as the guy that wants to go back to where he once was. He wants to advance to a new position somewhere else to be able to have a new challenge. And I think Denver gives him a better opportunity, in my estimation. You have Russell Wilson, who really needs to have a coach that believes in him and be able to look at what's going on. I just think he and Hackett were just a bad fit, just an odd fit altogether. The type of system, he's not a timing quarterback. He's never been. He's off schedule type of guy. That's how he was able to succeed in Seattle. All right, and you look at what's happening in Arizona. Kyler Murray, can he return at the start of the season from that ACL injury? But you do have a guy like DeAndre Hopkins out there, right? You do have some good talent on the offensive side. So what would Sean Payton do? Would he prefer to come back to the New Orleans Saints, a system and a team and a city that he loves and people love him, or would he decide to go elsewhere to embrace a new challenge?
All right, Glenn, we're running out of time here. I promise you, we'll bring you back on before February 25th, which I see is the date for the HBCU Legacy Bowl, 3 p.m. on NFL Network. Looking forward to getting back down to New Orleans. I hear you are on the advisory committee now, correct?
Yeah, yes, I am.
All right, so looking forward to that. And then I see here it is the Kyle T. Mosley birthday today. Will the birthday boy be
thank you.
Yeah,
I appreciate it,
my man. Will you be making the trek up to Philadelphia by any chance?
No, I won't be headed to Philly because there's an HBCU basketball tournament that's in the Virgin Islands, and I've been asked to cover that. So I'll be in the Virgin Islands for 6 days, being able to have a nice time. My son and I, he's my photographer and videographer, so he's going to be with me. So sorry, the cold of Philly won't be able to see me this time.
Damn, man, I was gonna say, if you need a camera guy, like, hit me up. I can get down there. I'll have Tone beam me in. We'll stream from the Virgin Islands. Let me know next time. Well, hey, appreciate the time. Happy birthday, Kyle.
Thank you.
Looking forward to having you back next year, draft season, HBCU Legacy Bowl. And I got to get a prediction from you on the way out, and then let us know where to find all the great content, the website, the Twitter handle, all that great stuff.
Sure. Prediction, as far as the game is concerned, I think the Eagles will win because they have to win. They have to clinch, and they will love to do it in front of the people at Lincoln Field, right? So I would have to go with the Eagles and winning the game. Now, as far as finding me, you can find me on Twitter at KTMOZE, as well as HBCU Legends, as well as Saints News, where we have the coverage for the New Orleans Saints as well as HBCUs.
Does a great job. Happy to have him here on the show. Can't wait to see you down in New Orleans. And safe travels, my friend, down to the Virgin Islands.
Thank you, man. You take care, Rick.
There you have it. The birthday boy, Kyle T. Mosley, on the way out the door. We got the birthday boy. We got the Christmas girl. You want to say goodbye to the people? They were asking what you got for Christmas, Oceana. This was the Football Playbook. Thank you so much to all the chat room people, the listeners, the party people, in the front, in the back, where you at. What do we got going on here?
Barbie and unicorn.
The unicorn Barbie. Show it up. Hold it up. Show the people here. What do you got?
I got a unicorn in the Barbie.
Oh, baby. Buckle up.
This is supposed to light up at nighttime.
Oh, I guess Daddy's got to get batteries. I know. Oh, everything needs batteries. I hear you, Oceana.
Yep, even the Paw Patrol lookout.
The Paw Patrol lookout. I know. I'm still building it. I'm still piecing it back together.
Yeah, because he didn't build the zip line yet.
Yeah, I got to put the zip line on. That's what the future holds for us here on the Football Playbook. We'll be back at it again. Dane Vandernat, Neil Stratton, RJ Ochoa, maybe an Ed Kratz sighting, Tone DeShields the second holding it down, the super producer. And we'll be back at it again. Smash that like button one more time on the way out. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody. Buckle up.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
Philadelphia fans, we're cut from a different cloth. Born into a brotherhood and bonded to our team for life. We believe anything is possible because we've witnessed the impossible. While we may be from different neighborhoods, come Sunday, we are one, and we will be heard. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.